In this episode, it's a brand new start for a brand new series. Hey there, my name is Rex, episode 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. Welcome to the reviews, and let's go ahead and discuss the episode. So, first of all, it was an interesting one. I think that it was a smart choice to focus mainly on the main three characters, of course, Yuhi, Yuumu, and Udius. And the overall episode I thought was good. I thought was fine. There are some things that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but the episode starts off with Yuhi and Yuumu, who we know are part of UTS, in charge of basically exterminating aliens, though they haven't found any yet. And one day, while they're just out on patrol, attempting to nab an alien, they stumble into one, finding a ship, going inside, getting taken up into space, and meeting this alien, Udius, who also... It was a little unclear, but he has, 8 million of his other aliens with him. It was unclear whether they were actually with them in the ship, or if it was a hologram. But regardless, they're here watching all of this go down. So there's a little conflict between them where they don't really understand each other, but it culminates in them having a duel, Yuhi versus Udius. And, it's kind of interesting, too, that Udius knows what rush duels are, but he doesn't know what rush duels are. He knows about them, but he doesn't know anything about actually having an actual rush duel. Some funny moments, especially as he has the card packs thinking those are the actual cards, and is devastated when they open the packs before he realizes the actual cards are inside. That's kind of interesting, kind of neat. It's funny. But the downside, personally, I think it is that this episode does serve as a tutorial episode for rush duels. And, as someone who has watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, and I think a good amount of people have watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, we all know how rush duels work. And I think that, a tutorial duel like this isn't very interesting. But at the same time, I understand why they did this, I guess, because it serves as an introduction for anybody who, say, didn't watch 7s or just wants to give this a shot. And I think it's a good... first little introduction episode, because for one thing, you get to see, you get the comedy of this style of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s / Go Rush, the rush duel style of comedy in the anime. The animation, I think the animation's fine. There's nothing extremely impressive in this episode, but at least the style of it, as well as, how the characters are. So as an introduction, I think it's pretty good so far. And it at least makes sense for Udius, right? Because Udius is an alien. He's the fish out of water. He knows absolutely nothing. So it's up to Yuhi and Yuumu to basically teach him everything. And I kind of like the dynamic that they all have together. Yuhi is a lot more goofy, a lot more eccentric and funny, while Yuumu is the smart one, basically. But I do like that, it's not just her personality of like, oh, she's the smart one, right? She's also kind of a, not a... schemer, but kind of, in the sense that as this duel is happening between Yuhi and Udius, she attempts to exploit Udius, saying that, if he loses, that he'll come work with them at their company to help look for aliens, just having him on the side. But if he wins, then they'll teach him more about rush duels, because Udius is under this impression that rush duels are what's going to save them. And, there's a lot of questions in terms of, how exactly that fits into, the lore and how it connects to 7s, if at all. How this group of aliens from the Veilgear system know about rush duels and why there's a legend. But, all of that is just set up. And I think that that's fine how it is in this episode as set up, because, that's all big questions to be answered later on. But I do think it was kind of neat, because it's basically a win-win situation, because by the end of the episode, he still joins them, because, if Udius loses, then yeah, he joins their company. But if he wins, they'll teach him about rush duels. But to teach him about rush duels, he's got to stick with them. So it's a win-win for Yuumu, who, planned this whole thing. And during this duel, it's a lot of, Udius learning how rush duels work. And Yuumu basically explaining everything. Again, like I said, the actual duel is basically just a tutorial duel. But I think it was a fine, it's not going to reach top 10 duels of the series at all. But it was still pretty interesting. One interesting thing I think is that it's mentioned that generally level 4 monsters don't reach over 1500 attack. And, that's something that I know all too well, painfully so, after playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's game on the Switch, which is a fun game. But oh my gosh, those monsters are puny in that game. However, Udius is using all these monsters that are all galaxy type, and I guess in a way that makes sense, because technically the packs that he had were from space. And so I guess that the deck he's using is built from cards just pulled from the pack there. We only see Udius use just a bunch of normal monsters through this duel. We don't even see like a spell or trap activated on Yuhi's side. But Udius's ace monster resembles him, or at least he thinks it resembles him, and it kind of does. And in terms of like the lore, that's all stuff we'll figure out. So not not upset that we didn't get any information, because that's obviously like, setting up for big questions that will get answered later. And this monster is a level 4 with 1600 attack, which is just enough to be able to defeat Yuhi in this turn. So that's kind of interesting, that we're getting this monster that's sort of an ace monster, but it's just, a really strong vanilla level 4. Something we take for granted, I guess, nowadays in Yu-Gi-Oh! But it is kind of neat. And, during this duel, he transforms into, like, his, I guess, true form. The form that we see on all the promotion, all the posters and everything. Because for most of this duel, he's wearing a pretty generic outfit. So, in a way, I kind of like that, because, like, a duel-related transformation. Because, it kind of calls back to, say, stuff like, Yami Yugi and Yugi, or with Astral even, and Yuma. And all the duel related transformations that we've seen in the series. So it's kind of interesting to see that we'll be having this. And again, an alien protagonist, and really even the 3 of these characters, I guess, are effectively all our protagonists, because we're introduced to Yuhi and Yuma first. Yuhi, of course, is I guess I don't want to say your generic shonen protagonist, but kind of maybe a little more goofier. And Yuumu is the one who's, of course, smarter. I like that at least the 2 of them seem to kind of complement each other in that way, or that, like, they each have things they're doing. Not saying that Yuumo's not going to be a good duelist, because I bet she is. But just the way that they work together works pretty well. And again, them with this alien now, Udius, this fish out of water kind of guy, I think that's a pretty good dynamic, all 3 of them. And like I said, perfect choice just to focus on just the 3 of them for this first episode. But that's how the episode ends, is that, they have this alien in their care, and we'll be finding out a lot more. I think it was, pretty good for setting things up. Stuff introduced, questions that we're going to get answered, questions that, that we see and we think, okay, we keep that in the back of your mind. Like I said, it was my only issue with it is just the duel, and even then, I understand why the duel was like that. Not that like it shouldn't have been this way. I understand why it was this way. But because of that, it was pretty unengaging. Like, that was all the duel is, just a bunch of normal monsters summoned. Actually, I think some of Yuhi's had some effects, but they didn't use any. And again, I'm expecting that to come in like the next few episodes. We'll learn about monster effects maybe, or maybe even we'll just stick to like the regular Rush duel specific rules in terms of like drawing 5 at the beginning of your turn, being able to summon as many monsters as you want. So we'll see where that goes, but definitely. With this series, as we've learned, I don't know if we'll be sticking with like the 13 episodes arcs for Go Rush, but if we are, just like in Sevens, then that's definitely something to keep in mind. Wait for the first 13 episodes and then judge all of that, and then we'll be able to determine how everything's going to be going for the rest of the series. But I definitely did enjoy this episode. I'm really looking forward to what else is going to be happening. Like I said, for the most part, this gives us a good look at the setting and the characters, which so far I'm already sold on from this first episode, and I love. So let me know what you think in the comments below if you enjoyed this episode, and what you're looking forward to seeing in the rest of Go Rush. But again, this first impressions, first episode review, stick around, because every week I'll be watching the episodes, and we can discuss them here. But anyway, this has been Rex. Have a nice day.